What's up, everybody? This is your brother Creek, and we want to welcome you to the Six for Sixers podcast. Tonight, podcast, we will be recapping Denver versus the 76ers, playing in Denver, the Mile High City, and the Sixers took a L 105 to 111. I'm gonna give my first commentary, which is that the loss was to me heartbreaking. We had some key players out tonight. Embiid, Maxey, Harris, Melton, all were not available for this contest, and others like who else?
Obama was out.
Yeah, Bomber was out. So, even though bench player, still, very critical that all those players were out. But being a true Sixer fan, you always, hold on to the hope that this might be the day that they defeat the Giant, even in the face of such adversity. So I was holding on to it, and it just didn't happen. So in the Six for Sixer podcast, we want y'all to like, subscribe, share with your friends, so we can get the community bustling. And this is what we do in the Six for Sixer podcast. We go over the top 6 points that we saw that really impacted the game. Although a lot of times there are more, and that's our overtime period. And so I'm going to go into the 6 points, and then my brother, co-host, Mr. John Jervey, he's with us. So he's going to offer his insight as to, what he saw in the game and so forth. So my first point, brother, is I'm gonna go with Pat Bev. Pat Bev to me was key tonight. 17 points, 1 of 3 from three, 6 or 12, 50% shooting percentage. But Pat Bev had 11 assists. The one thing I liked about what Pat Bev did tonight was his leadership. They had Pat mic'd up tonight, and they showed him in the beginning of the game really trying to tell the guys, like, we're going to play at a fast pace. That's the only way we're going to win. At certain points during the game, they also had Pat Bev mic'd up, and he was encouraging guys, teaching guys different plays and so forth, where to be on the floor. Pat Bev at one point was guarding Nikola Jokic. Pat Bev went head up with Murray. He was going in on everybody. And I think that his contribution to the team tonight was invaluable because he was one of the ones that was unafraid regardless of the circumstances. So what are your thoughts on Pat Bev tonight?
Pat Bev has just been a pleasant surprise. Like I said, the intangibles he bring, the leadership. I didn't know he had this much left in the tank offensively. Defensively, he's always been a dog. But this late in his career, I didn't think he had a 17 and 11 assist game in him. But everything you said, I agree with. And without Pat Bev, tonight would have been a blowout. But he brought that veteran presence, that veteran leadership. And I'm just hoping he can continue this into the playoffs.
Absolutely. So, all right, my second point is going to be somewhat controversial, but I had to hit it. I wanted to get Pat Bev first since Pat Bev actually played in the game, but one of the key factors to the loss tonight was our big fella, Joel Embiid, being out the game. Now, it's controversial because, as a sportscaster, commentator, you really don't want to go into when a guy says they're injured. You don't really want to yeah, this is a tough space. He said the medical staff was not comfortable with what they saw and the way he was moving in his pregame warmups. And so it was their decision, and the Sixers made it clear that it was their decision to pull him. However, Embiid has not played in Denver since 2019. So we're going on like 5 years there. And although his record against Nikola Jokic has him getting more victories, most of those games have been played in Philadelphia. And most guys play better on their home floor. The crowd, the home crowd, all that makes a difference. So you had to give Jokic an opportunity to play on his home floor, and Embiid has not done that in such a long time. So what is your take on the status of Embiid tonight?
Same as you, bro. I want to go. I want to go in on him. I don't want to say, Joel Hans Embiid is ducking the Joker. Off the record, I'll share that opinion. So we're going to keep it on up and up here and support our hometown hero. But since 2019, it's not a good look. I didn't think he's going to play when he started grabbing his knee during the last game. I said, I think he's setting things up against Denver. Didn't want to believe it, but when he wasn't a scratch up until the start tip off. I said, okay, maybe he's going to play. But when we seen the little news flash and he was out, I said, okay, I expected that when he grabbed his knee last game from the little tweak. But if I was an NBA, I would make the Denver Sixers game first.
Right.
Because he's getting him in Philly, then it's always something when it's time for him to play in Denver. And what's his name? Big Perk. Big Perk. He said that Embiid doesn't let Joker get his lick back. So,
right, yeah.
So, if I'm the league, and I bet you they're going to do that, they're going to have that Denver Sixers game first and have the Denver Sixers game in Philly second.
That's
then
a good.
Get at least one match of the process in the Joker in a Mile High City.
Now, the proof is in the next game. What's going to happen in the next game? Because, I mean, you and I were sharing texts, and you said, if Embiid plays the next game, that's kind of going to tell. I don't know, man. It's just weird to me that every season he does not play in Denver. And the thing too that made me a little bit hot was I did see Maxey on the side. Like Embiid was in and out. Sometimes I saw him on the bench. Sometimes I did not see him on the bench. But Maxey was very vocal, standing up, man, engaging with the team, really, really trying to be a leader, even though he wasn't on the floor. And I really wish Embiid would do that. And then the Denver fans, they had like missing, they had flyers that said missing. And unless they have a printer in the back somewhere, and nobody really expected Joel to play. That's the thing.
Not at all.
And that's the thing that really nobody even I saw the injury report. He was not on the injury report. And I said, it's a chance. But still, a little bit inside on me was like, he's not going to play. So if these fans had these flyers printed up saying he was missing before the game, they did not expect him to play either. So, but, I hope he gets better for the next game because we do need him. And his absence obviously is a big factor to us losing that game. Point number 3, B-Ball Paul. B-Ball Paul went deep in the bag tonight. B-Ball, man, I didn't know B-Ball Paul had that much, depth to his game because, I mean, he was inside, he was rebounding, he was hitting three-pointers, he was in the mid-range bag. B-Ball Paul went for a career-high 30 points on 14 for 21 shooting, 2 for 4 from three-point range, 13 rebounds, 2 steals. Man, that was an incredible performance by B-Ball Paul. And he looks awkward at times. His shot looks a little bit awkward. Sometimes he looks like a little bit less coordinated than some of the guys. However, he was highly effective. I thought B-Ball Paul did a good job tonight trying to hold it down in Embiid's absence and Mo Bamba also being out. Give me your thoughts on B-Ball Paul tonight.
Do we dare say that B-Ball Paul outplayed the Joker? I don't know if that's blasphemous to say, but B-Ball Paul showed potential before. We know he's not better than a Joker. Let me preface the statement with that. But for this one night, did he outplay the Joker? I was talking to someone before we started the podcast, and I would say, because they didn't see the game, I said, you know what? I'm going to say he outplayed him tonight, and he showed if he gets a little bit more burn at the 4, along with Embiid, we're not expecting this during, his Embiid minutes, but if he can give us a third of this on a regular basis, it's just going to strengthen us. Again, a lot of my sentences finished for the playoff run.
Right.
But yeah, he was deep in his bag tonight. Highly impressive and effective.
And I've been calling for Nick Nurse to play
Yes, you
Reed
have.
at the four
Yes, you
because
have.
Embiid plays a lot in the perimeter most of the time, bringing the ball up the floor. So I don't really see a big conflict. And because Reed plays pretty much in the paint, I think it can work, and I think it adds size to our lineup too. But he did it earlier in the season. He did it when they played San Antonio because
Yes.
Reed to take the pressure off and be having to guard Wembanyama put Reed on him instead. So, but he has not for the most part done it this season. So, good game by B-Ball Paul. That was my point number 3. My point number 4 is what I also been calling for this season is for the Sixers to try to trade for a guard who is defensive minded and also can shoot the ball. Marcus Smart comes to mind. And he's with Memphis now. And it really showed true tonight. Pat Bev, I love Pat Bev's heart, but Pat Bev couldn't do anything with Jamal Murray tonight. Jamal Murray, particularly in the first half, he had 20 points in the first half. He started out the game on fire. I mean, he was like 4 for 4 from three or something of that crazy stat. He was just raining down on him. And the commentators were saying that Pat Bev had said something about him on his podcast that really got him heated up.
Mhm.
But in total, Murray had 23 points. He ended with 23 points. So he cooled off a little in the second half, but he was 6 for 10 from three. And I think that's one of our biggest weaknesses. Even when Maxey plays, I guess Melton is more of a stopper, but
Mhm.
we had so much trouble with Murray. What are your thoughts on having a defensive stopper in the backcourt?
A defensive stopper with length is definitely key. But let me punt it back to you. Who are you willing to give up between Melton and Pat Bev to acquire this guard?
Yeah, I'm not willing. I'm not willing to give up Pat Bev, and I would like to not give up Melton too. I would like to give up like a Springer or
Okay.
Pork Maz, give him up. Even Covington, give him up. But we need Melton, and we also need Pat Bev, just because Pat Bev to me is the engine. So I'm not willing to really give up either one of those guys. So I don't know if that's possible, right, for somebody like Marcus Smart. But I think he'd be a perfect fit, and he would come in with a fire because he got traded out by Boston, and they chose to go with Holiday.
Mhm.
And I think he would have the perfect narrative for a revenge on his old team, especially as we come down to the playoffs. So that was my next point, is that they didn't have an answer for Murray. And I thought that even on the second half, but I mean, in the first half, Murray just poured it on so heavy
He
that
did.
it, kind of set the tone for the game. Um, next point, number 5, is that guys that are not used to being starters were asked to play starter minutes. And when you play in all those minutes and you're used to playing 15, 16 minutes a game, 20 minutes, and you're asked to play 30 plus, Oubre played 40 minutes, Morris Sr. played 33, Reed played 42. The
Mm.
guys at the end of the game, they were not able to uphold the type level of play that they have been playing with um, all game. So I thought that fatigue set in. They started settling for 3-point shots, and it just wasn't there defensively. Denver was able to take over. Did you see the same thing?
Absolutely. And Shaq calls them the others. His others were the Rick Foxes and the Brian Shaws and that whole bunch. But the others, A plus for tonight.
Yeah.
Extremely impressive. I'm a huge Oubre fan, and I shared this with you before the podcast started that the others have to get an opportunity, even when Embiid or Maxey are playing. What they did tonight, it was just proof positive that they do have potential.
Yes.
Again, could not be prouder than the Oubres and the Marcus Morris and Pat Bev and Paul Reed. They just all stepped up and said, Nurse, we need some tick, we need some touches, we
Yeah.
need some shots. even when we're fully loaded. And I was just so happy to see that, because if we can get, I keep on saying, even a third of what they did tonight consistently when our stars are there, this is a championship caliber team. But we're not a championship caliber team without the four that stepped up tonight
Right.
consistently giving us a third of what they did. But the others, A plus plus. Proud of the boys. They played with their heart, just didn't have it in them to close the game. They got us there, but because, like you said, they wasn't accustomed to getting those kind of minutes when the money was on the line, they didn't have it in them to close it out. Not against the
Right.
elite elites.
And the same thing happened when they played Boston in
Same thing.
Boston. And
Same
you
thing.
know, Embiid, I think Maxey was out that game too. And they did just didn't have enough to close it out. But they fought the whole game. So
Yes,
the
they did.
last point of the Six for Sixers podcast is I want to go to Kelly Oubre Jr. So
Okay.
Kelly Oubre. Now we saw Kelly Oubre up close and personal in Charlotte. And we saw some frustration set in on him because he wasn't getting the touches and so forth. Tonight, he did get the touches. He went for 25 points, 9 for 17, 1 for 4 for the three. I thought he settles a little bit for the 3-point shot too much, especially when it's not clicking. He's so fast, man. He has that length. He could really just go by guys, but he chooses to just, shoot that three. When it's clicking, but when it's not, it hurts his game a little bit.
Yes.
But he poured in, he had 5 rebounds, which was good, and 4 assists. Really a complete game. If we can get that from Oubre throughout the course of the season, maybe not 25, but at least 20, 15 to 20. But again, that all depends on when Embiid and Maxey come back, and how the ball is distributed equally around the floor. But what was your impression of Oubre tonight and what you saw?
Yeah, I think, Oubre is one of the keys to a championship run,
Hmm.
because the floor is going to shrink. We know Embiid, they're going to come with a hard double. We know Maxey against the longer wings, once they come with the junk defenses, won't be as impressive. But Oubre showed he can get his. Um, Having him stand on the corner and get frustrated and go 8-9 minutes, and we say how Embiid, when we seen the game up in person, he gives
Hmm.
it up to him and starts clapping, give it right back, and all of
That's
that.
right. Yep.
He can't do that. He needs to let Oubre eat. And I'm not going to make a controversial statement tonight, but I'm going to put this in the atmosphere. There's something on the internet. I don't know if you've seen it,
Hmm.
when Embiid was doing his thing, and Oubre was in the corner waiting, what he's been doing so much lately,
Hmm.
and B didn't give it to him, and he just started running back down the court. But before he ran out of court, he like smacked the floor like, "I'm open, give me the ball." Ever since that went viral,
Wow.
Embiid and Max, I don't want to say they're freezing him out, but it's obvious that Embiid can tell he's frustrated not getting touches, and either he's intentionally or maybe unintentionally, because he's just trying to score 70 points. But ever since, if you go back, I don't know what game that was. I know somebody
Okay.
said it going to comment, but he was waiting and he didn't get it. He just kind of like smacked the floor and he ran down court before Embiid even shot. Like, I know you ain't going to pass it to me. So let me
Right.
get defense. And since then, his production's been going downhill, but he showed tonight, you know, my game hasn't fell off. Like, somebody posted something on, a few other chats, and Oubre's fallen off ever since, he had the accident. I'm like, no, he's not getting the
No.
touches he was before. But to win it, I say that to say, love what I seen. Agree with you. He settled too much. Nurse has to implement him into the offense more, and he has to make Embiid and Maxey give him the ball by calling plays for him. If we do that, I
Yeah.
think he's an essential championship piece to this puzzle.
And he was getting touches in the beginning. The offense was flowing a lot differently.
Yes,
Like
it
in the
was.
first 10 games of the season, there was a lot more ball movement, a lot more player movement, a
Yes,
lot
it
more
was.
sharing of the load. And at some point it turned into the Embiid Maxi show. And I think that, really that streak has something to do with it. I'm really, I love the historical value and so forth, but it's time. I mean, that streak, man, it's really becoming a burden,
It is.
all of the individual accolades. And now Embiid is, 6 games, if he misses 6 more games, he will be ineligible for the MVP race, which might be a good thing, man, to just go on and cancel that out. Not a good thing for him to miss games, but a good thing for that not to be a focus of this year. Because we're talking more about MVP and we're talking more about this streak and how he compares to Wilt Chamberlain and scoring a bunch of points and oh, he did it again and how many minutes he's playing as opposed to other players. And we're not talking about winning a championship, which we haven't won since 1983. So that's really should be the focus, in my opinion.
Indeed, it's all about the chit. It's all about parade down Broad Street and love the team, love the potential. It's going to take a few tweaks. It's clearly going to take breaking the streak, maybe Nurse standing up to Embiid saying, look, we're not going to run 75% of the plays through you when you're in the game every game. If
Right.
somebody else gets hot, we're going to go ahead and let them eat. Get your 20, 25, but let's build this team for the playoff run, not for you to keep a streak going and to be compared to Wilt. That's not going to get us a parade until this man shows us he can do this in the playoffs. But, good fight overall. Yeah, love what I've seen. Your points on fire as always. And let's take this podcast to another level, bro.
That's right. Appreciate it. Six for Sixers podcast. Those were the 6 points for the night. Like, subscribe, share, comment below what your thoughts were for the game. And as always, we're doing it. We're trying to do it big, trying to grow and grow and grow the platform. Also, check out my 6 for Sixers blog on the Facebook page, The 6 for Sixers. And we out. You got any closing thoughts, brother?
That's it. Go Sixers. Unfortunately, we can't play the song, but
we can't play the song tonight.
we'll play it after the next W next game.
We'll play it after the next W. All right, 6 for Sixers podcast. It's your brother Creek, and above me is my brother John Jervey, 6 for Sixer member. We out. We'll see you on the next game. Peace.